Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Women Making History podcast, where we celebrate women of the past, the present, and the future. We also look at all the different roles women play. And today we're going to talk about women who are pet parents, women who travel. Sometimes it's travel for pleasure, for family, for necessity, and even for work, right? And we're also going to talk about pets. And so when we talk about that, that means we're calling Angela. Angela Laws is the community manager. We call her Auntie Angela or Auntie Angela when she comes over to the States. Auntie Angela is here. She's a community manager for TrustedHouseSitters.com. And as many of you know, Nancy and I travel the country documenting parks and public lands. And in between times to get our work done and do these podcasts, we're pet sitting, and we love it because we're huge animal people, and it's the best thing we've ever, it's changed our travels, and we've been traveling our whole lives, but full time doing hotels and all of that, which we're not against whatsoever. But when you talk about being digital nomads and traveling with this immersive experience, this is the way. And for the pet parents, it's super cool for them. So we make friends with the pets. We make friends with the pet parents. It's an awesome thing. So we're going to talk about women today, women who travel and their pets. So welcome back, Angela. How are you?
Hi, Lisa. I'm fine. Thank you. And it's always a pleasure to speak about trusted house sitters and pet sitting and pets in particular, yes, with you and Nancy. And yeah, the way that the lifestyle and the pet sitting lifestyle, it really is, it is changing lives.
Yeah. And I think it's also a safe way for women, right? And also, just women, single women, right, in their homes, people start to know you're a single woman household. And, it's actually important to have someone in your home when you're gone as a safety thing, right? So there's that too. But before we dive into the world of women and pets and travel, can you give everyone just a quick overview of how Trusted House Sitters work? I always laugh. People say, gosh, you girls must be making tons of money pet sitting. I'm like, no, that's not what it is about. It is really it's a relationship actually between pet parents and travelers. And
yeah, yes, we're a global community, and I think that's the thing to remember is we're a global community of pet-loving travelers. Whether you're a pet parent that loves to travel or a sitter that loves to travel, but at the center and the glue that binds us together are those adorable animals that live in homes that want to be kept happy and safe in their own environment while their pet people, leave. And that's where trusted house sitters and sitters come in, because what we do, it's a mutual exchange. It's a fair exchange between, pet parent sitters. And with pet sitters, I've just come back from 2 weeks in Brighton, England, looking after Mango. Adorable. I miss her so much. She slept with me every night and she was just, she made my 2 weeks down there so much more than it already was. And that's what we do. And so it's all about the experience. It's all about keeping pets safe and happy at home. But the relationships that are built between pet parents and their sitters, and no money changes hands apart from an annual membership to join the community. And that's the only money that changes hands, because it is all about the experience. It's all about slow travel, connecting with communities, and actually taking the time to discover yourself, discover where you are, and also to travel in a really safe and sustainable way. And it's not, it's not about impersonal hotel rooms where you don't know what you're getting. You actually do know where you're going before you get there, and you've met the people before you actually arrive.
Yes. And let's talk about safety. Because I know you guys did background checks on us, and we checked out as not being murderers or bank robbers, and the same thing for pet parents. So there's actual background checks, right? And then we'll get into the communication between everyone. But that there's a safety zone, even when you're new to the platform. As a pet sitter, you want to get references on board from, people that can say, yes, this is an upstanding person, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even before you've done any sits with trusted house sitters, because we recommend starting locally to start with anyway. But even before you've
Yes.
got those, you have to upload references. You cannot start to pet sit unless you have those references on your profile. And it's very simple the way it's done. But those people who can attest to your trustworthiness, and then your ID checked and background checked. The ID check is to obviously make sure you are who you say you are, and then there's background checks. So all of those checks and balances are in place, and then that's when the process starts. And so we do have this process in order to make it as authentic and as safe as it can be. And when that process is followed and it's taken through from start to finish, then the success rate for our, the experience and those connections is very, very high.
I love this because, when we started it, we did have you on the show to check you out, right? Just about trusted house sitters. We were like, actually, I found out about trusted house sitters from a travel writer, Norm Bauer. Actually, he's been on our show a few times. He was posting about it, and I said, "Wow, that sounds interesting." However, makes me nervous. And you came on the show, and then you were like, "Well, why aren't you doing it?" And we're like, because, like, I was being stupid about stuff, so, but it's not really stupid. No, it's not stupid. It's just stupid. You do need to question. And honestly, I have to say we've done it for 4 years and we've made, as I always say on the shows, the best friends. It's like family. I mean, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, you name it. Here comes my phone it doesn't stop from me sending things and pet parents sending happy Christmas, all of that. And that's amazing, right? That's that. And updates, you bond with people. And through the women's side of things, I think it's really nice for a woman to know they've got a mom and daughter coming into their home, right? Just from our personal experience. So there's all kinds of everybody that's part of this community. But we have these conversations before we get there to see, are we a fit? And there's times when we're not a fit for others and they're not a fit for us. It could be timing. It could be, hey, they only want one person, or it just didn't feel right, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Because if you get that, and I always say, as much as possible, do a Zoom video call or a FaceTime. Have that visual. So there's an extra level of connectivity. I'm pretty professional in it since we do podcasting. So audio and video is pretty good. But I always say, if you can do a video call, try and do it to kind of get that extra level of connectivity. Wouldn't you say, Angela?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The communication is what is really, really essential. And you first communicate through the website and through accounts. But we always, as you say, we always recommend that you have a Zoom call, and that is a face-to-face, because then you see one another and you see the homes, and you can then ask all of those questions. And it's actually like, it's like meeting in person, but these days we meet online. And the thing about it is that it's actually making sure that it's the right sit for the right person. And when we're talking about our community and the fact women traveling and women do this, and the women pet parents and female sitters, if you stop and think about it, most arrangements in a household, and we talk about these days equality and inclusion, but actually let's talk facts. Most of the time, the women in the family, or one woman, or that actually does most of the arranging of everything. Now, my husband and I have been pet sitting for the last 14, 16 years. I've done over 200 sits, but I also do them on my own. And one of the things because I work remotely, and that's a lot of people, women, men, everybody, but since the pandemic, so many people work remotely. I do. And there's nothing better than actually going and being in somebody's home, being in a home away from home with a pet companion. And they actually, they give you a good work-life balance, but their company too. You're not alone. I mean, we have female sitters, solo female sitters. One in particular, she's from Vancouver, Canada, and she only ever sits dogs. And the love of her life was a golden retriever. So they're her love breed. I mean, she loves all dogs, but let's face it, most of us have favorites. We can't help that. It's like your children in your family. You don't say you've got a favorite, but sometimes you do. But she only ever sits dogs. And one of the reasons for that is they get her outside, they get her walking, and she goes out and she walks, and invariably will meet somebody and have conversations, and they will be talking. And that's how she's made lots of friends. But it is that way of, you're not throwing a pebble in a stream to see where it lands. Before you actually go to your sit, you have met the people you're sitting for, or the person you're sitting for, or the pet that you're sitting for. You've seen the house. You've had lots of communication. So you're going to get on that plane, on that train, in that car, on that bike. You may only be an hour away, but you're going to go there, and you actually know who you're going to be sitting for. You've got that relationship built to start with. What other way of travel can you say that you actually know where it is you're going, who you're going to be with, et cetera, et cetera? So if we're talking safety, if we're talking, making sure that you have all of that in place as much as you possibly can, then this is the way to do it. This is the lifestyle for you. And the other thing too is it can be lonely on the road on your own. It really can. But here, through our community, you make those relationships.
Well, we find also that the pet parents are like little tourism ambassadors for their community. They leave you inside the welcome guide, and that's what you get as a pet sitter. There's an online welcome guide, and a lot of pet parents will print it out for you, which I always recommend in case there's any outages of anything. And they have here's our restaurant, why we like it. Here's our favorite walking trail. This is where the dogs like, they put things together for you. Like this is this grocery store, that kind of thing. So you do feel like it's like, hey, you're on vacation, but you are taking care. You are responsible for this home and the pets. And that is the best way to be immersed into a community. And from what we've also seen, I know I've mentioned this on shows, that a lot of people who, especially starting out in pet sitting, will go locally, like you're saying, Angela, but also we're seeing that this is a way to find out if you're looking at buying a home in a certain neighborhood or region. People will do that to get to know the lay of the land and the community. So it's not just travelers, it's people buying homes that they do this because they want to feel at home. That's like this whole new thing we're seeing that, we recently did a sit, and the lady that we sat for, her and her husband, they're pet sitters too. And she's like, no, we got our start locally. And she said, well, we were also looking at moving from where we are. So we thought, well, this, it's two, birds in a bush kind of thing, birds in the hand, whatever, whatever that thing is. I don't want to say that, whatever it is, two hands in a whatever, but it worked out in so many ways. And now she's like, we always looked at this as travel. And now they're like repeat sits in the same place. And now they're like, because they do like that area, or they do like those animals. So they're flying back to the same places.
Yeah.
It's just this whole other lifestyle. And she goes, it has completely shifted their mindset of travel. And I love to hear that. And it's changed them as a young married couple too, of what they had planned, the typical thing, and now they're like, oh, we could live in all kinds of ways. You know what I mean? It gives you these lifestyle experiences where you're connecting with others, and the growth comes from these people that you're sitting down in each other's like you're going to someone's home and they're welcoming you into their home. So it gets real quick. And that is this absolute beauty of it. You bond with the animals together. You learn how to work through all these things. And it's like an immediate team building thing. And then there's a communication during the sit where this relationship begins. You find out people's likes, dislikes, and this, that, or the other. And it's like you're texting each other or using the app. And I don't know, it's like you get to know someone really well in ways that it could take years in a
Oh, and
different circumstance.
absolutely, because I mean, if you stop and think about it, what you're doing is you're walking into somebody's life, you're stepping into their shoes,
Yes.
stepping into their life, and there is nothing more personal than having somebody in your home living your life and living that life, and you also having them and welcoming them. And this is the part that some people find extraordinary, and some people actually don't feel comfortable with, and it's that stranger in the home. But actually, when you connect, invariably there is something, it's like-minded people coming together, and there's something that connects you and brings you together, and then you will find out that you've got more in common than you have different. And
Right.
when it comes to women traveling on their own, you can then, meet so many others. And I think what is something so important that you and Nancy are absolutely, champions of, is that so many people believe that you've got to get on a plane and travel a couple of days to get to somewhere to have amazing experiences. You and Nancy have sat and pet sat and sat with animals and become part of people's lives and their families in the United States, because there is so much to see, so many places to go. It's a huge country, and you can actually find yourself in somewhere that you may never ever have believed you would go to, and you see it in a different way. And as a solo female traveler, to have those experiences, but also to know that there is a connection there and that you're not alone and there is support. And that's also something that we should talk about with Trusted House Sitters, is you are part of a community. There is a membership services team 24/7. There is emergency number. There's a vet helpline that
Yes.
actually pet parents have access to, but sitters also have access to when they're on the sit. And these days, with the cost of veterinary care, that's something that's really, really comfortable, knowing that you've got that ability to actually pick up the phone and speak to a professional to ask for advice in the unlikely event that something will happen. Because let's face it, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, you want to know that you've got somebody there. And so I think that's another thing that's really, really important. You may be traveling alone, but you're not on
Mm-hmm.
your own. And I think that's something that is so, and also then when you're at the sit, even when the pet parents have left, you're still not on your own, because you've got this furry companion of
Yes.
whatever, and it could also be a feathered companion. You could be looking after birds and chickens and
Pigs.
goats and pigs and porcelain and all of those.
Donkeys.
Have got, four legs,
Well,
2 legs, and as long as it breathes and it scratches and it's part of a family, then we'll look after it.
but, and our favorite things, is getting to know the animals with the pet parents.
Yeah.
Some animals are really used to people coming in and out, especially if they've been through trusted house sitters for a while. The dogs are like, oh, who's coming to visit now? Everyone's a little different. And then we tend to do a lot of rescues because we're there all day long, so we can attend to different needs, take the time, patience, that kind of thing. And so every sit is different, and that's why it is important to find the right one, right? If you're not used to rescue dogs that may have issues of abuse, you may not want to jump into one right away, and we normally, depending on the length of stay and things like that, we try to do the night before. or at least be there for a few hours with the pet parents, go for a walk with the animals, that kind of thing, be part of the first feeding, and, and you get to know everybody from that. And the bonding is cool. The women friends that we have are incredible. There's so many, and you're not alone, not only with you could go get a Airbnb, right? Or VRBO, whatever all those things are called, vacation rental, right? Not against them, but you could go there and there it is. There's your key. You're off on your own. Well, when you come into a trusted house sitter sit, you have like a family that's probably living two doors down. You have a neighborhood. Listen, everybody's spying on you in the neighborhood. So you're being watched after. Nancy watches them. Nancy's like, and if you walk the dog, you can tell who's spying, right? It's fun.
Yeah.
It's like a fun game. But it feels good to know that people are watching over you. And when if anything happens, you have people to call, it's like everybody goes through this process to make it happen for, everyone, and for the dogs and the cats and the pets, So everyone has to make sure that they're with it 100%. And when people set you up correctly, the homeowner, and the pet parent, as sitters, you're like, yay. And as sitters, you've got to be with it, understand what the pets need, take notes, ask questions, ask. No question is stupid. And if sometimes I over ask and I really don't care, because to me, I want to know more and make sure the pets are taken care of, the plants are taken care of, things like that. But if you're at a vacation rental, who do you call? You know what I mean? You do have someone to call, but it's not this community like what you have. And I love that. And again, you're having that connectivity, but we have found that you have this meeting a lot of times, maybe sometimes over dinner, maybe not, it doesn't matter, lunch, whatever. But there's a connection that happens over a table. And that often happens between women. And whether it's we're all going to sit down and have tea before so-and-so leaves, or, we're going to go through things, we all start to bond. As women, we've done a lot of sits for women, and they want women in their homes a lot of times. Cheryl, who's been on the show with you, in Lubbock, everyone knows her on the shows. And in fact, she was on our show, last Wednesday, everyone. She's an amazing travel advisor, Cheryl Ogle. She was talking about travel hacks and apps for women, and trusted house sitters is part of that list. So we ended up talking about cats and you, but she said she's had men come and stay here and she feels fine because of the background checks, because of the communication systems in place. We have not done very much. We've done some, men couples, things like that. We've done a lot of women, a lot of married couples and women. And there's this bonding that happens that you just, it used to be when you travel, people go to bars and stuff like that to hang with the locals, but this is like really real. So for women, we've made amazing friends. We know each other's lives, what we're all doing, we keep in touch on social media or via text. I don't know. We've made more friendships. And for women travelers, it's really, really nice. It's a nice way to feel comfortable. And you can make your own food. And those of us who know when you go out, like you can eat at restaurants, 24/7, but there's a line. Us ladies like to have our salads sometimes. I'm just saying, and have the space to do it.
And the other thing too is, let's face it, we've got a cost of living crisis, and there's a cost of living crisis globally. It's not just in your street or your town or anywhere. It's right across the board. And while the motivation is not to save money, you do save money. You save money on all of those things that you would have to pay for if you were going and staying in an Airbnb or something. The fact that you're going into somebody's home and, like you say, you can cook for yourself, you can do your own laundry, you've got Wi-Fi, you don't have to go and sit in Starbucks and drink endless cups of coffee to do your work. Or even if you're not working, to have that connectivity. And also, anything. Imagine that whatever it is you do at home, that involves a cost, you can go and do that in a sit, and that cost is ultimately not yours. The respect that you have for the space that you're using. You know what, Lisa? I have done this for so long and so often, but there is one thing that never, ever, ever ceases to amaze me. And that is, and recently I've done an awful lot of sits on my own as a solo female traveler and working from home. My husband has chosen to stay at home because we now have this house in Scotland. He's quite happy being here, but I love my animals. We chose not to have any of our own. And I think that's one thing that pet parents listening to this conversation, just think, we are animal lovers that for one reason or another cannot have pets of our own, or it's not the right environment for them to be in. It's not the right time, but we need that connection. We need that joy in our lives. And we also want to help you, know that your family member, your furry family member is going to be absolutely taken care of. And I say this with tongue in cheek, but it's true. Probably better than you do, not because you don't love them, but because that's what we're there for. We're there to look after the animals, we're there to look after your homes and respect your homes and keep them for you. But it's the animals that we're there for. They're our number one priority, and they get all of us without question. And so going and as a female traveler on their own, going and knowing that you've got that companionship and that you're going to be part of that. And as I was saying, the thing that never, ever ceases to amaze me is, like you say, there's often a time that we'll go the night before and we'll have supper with them, we'll have dinner with them, sit and have a glass of wine, and we'll chat and we'll go over everything so that when they leave, we know where the power switch is, where we can shut the water off, where we can do all of those things that we may need to do, but in all honesty, unlikely that we'll need to do it, but we do that. And then a few hours later, they have got suitcases at the door, they've turned around and they've gone, there are the keys are on the side, and they walk out of their front door and close it. And that never, ever ceases to amaze me. I never take that trust that they put in me for granted one little bit, because that is huge. To walk away and leave your precious possessions, your home and your pets. But that is the trust that is built up through these connections that we make. And so if you, as a female traveler on your own, know that they're trusting you, you can trust them, and you trust the community and you trust the system. But also, more importantly than that, you have got paw prints left on your heart when you leave that house.
But that's the thing. I mean, it's like all the animals. I mean, we've been doing this for 4 years, and now some have passed away, and we're all communicating on it and crying together. And, you bond, and you do. I love it because we love gardening, and traveling without pets really sucked, quite frankly, in a word. It sucked. It was like if we went for a walk in the park, we'd start telling people, going to people, not to talk to them, but to their dogs. It was, you craved that. And the animals are this focal point. And when you come together over care, I think that is a wonderful way of building relationships, because it's coming from a place of care and compassion, and then the excitement of travel, and caring about each other's adventures, which is really, really cool. But for women, it is a safer way to travel. Have those conversations. People are checked and backgrounded and whatever, all those little things, but which are important. But have those conversations. It's wonderful knowing, ask, do you put the light on outside at night or not? Most people have security alarms. They have people for you to call. You can do research on the neighborhood you're going to, exactly the house you're going to. You can look at the house before you go. You can see where you are going 100%, so, it's a very safe way to travel. I mean, we've been doing it for 4 years. And I mean, some of the sits are in cities. Some of them are out in the backwoods, which we've done out in a national forest. Go figure. High speed internet, the best internet we actually have been on is out in the middle of the Pisgah National Forest. The sweetest dog takes me on hikes in the forest, makes me fit, you know. She makes me go up mountains and hills and whatever. Well, they may be hills, but they're mountains when I'm doing them. And we have this relationship. And then afterwards, we're in tears when we leave. We're crying like babies,
No,
you know.
yeah,
But then, the pet parents send us things, and they're like, here, look at Lucy, look at Koozie the cat, look at Joker and Gotham, they send us, I don't know, it says a wonderful, wonderful platform and a real community. But when you talked about the lady, with dogs wanting, to hang out with dogs specifically, from also what I know is a lot of people are downsizing, right? And
yeah.
sometimes you can't have pets, even though you're a mad pet lover. You've had pets all your life. Maybe you work insane hours and then you get your little vacation time. But it isn't conducive for you to have an animal. And if
No.
if if it's not, don't do it, right? Because no one's going to be happy. But pet sitting, even locally, is a way for you to even get a break. Some people are living together that didn't want to, and
Absolutely.
just to,
Yeah.
maybe it could be someone going through college or all kinds of reasons, caregiving. Yeah, the
Mhm.
list goes on of reasons. And you could be in a greater region. Hey, maybe you just wanted to be closer to that hiking trail and or walk a dog like you're saying, or just be around animals that you miss being around. That I think is also a big draw for folks that miss it.
I think yeah, I think so too. And also there's many, as you say, there's so many reasons, and also you go back to somewhere where you may have lived, where you may have relatives, but you don't want to live with them and stay with them. So getting a pet sit, you can actually just visit and say, "Oh, sorry, got to go home now. I've got to feed the kitty. I've got to walk the dog." You can do anything, but there's always, there's always something to go back to. Always something to go back to. And we throughout the time that Trusted House Sitters has been around since 2010, I mean, we've kept millions upon millions of nights of pets being kept happy. And it goes right most of the time. And on those occasions when it doesn't, do you know what the main reason usually is the lack of communication and
Yes.
the wrong communication, and the fact that it's been the wrong sit for the wrong sitter for the wrong reasons, and it happens rarely. However, when it does happen, that's generally the reason why. When everybody is familiar and everybody's got got everything in, all their ducks in a row, it works out brilliantly. I have to tell a quick story about a sit that I did
Mm-hmm.
about 3 or 4 weeks, about no 2 months ago, and it was neighbours of one that I've been doing in London for 13 years, and it was neighbours around the corner who had heard of Trusted House Sitters, but weren't quite sure whether it was something they wanted to do. So I went and I talked to them and decided that I would love to do the sit for them, because I would like them to. I like to introduce them into the best pet care option in the world for pet parents. It
Mm-hmm.
is, without a shadow of a doubt. So I went and did the sit, and they're the loveliest couple. They're retired. He's originally from the States and she's from the UK. She did all the arranging and everything. As we know, most of the time it's the women that does it. When I got there, they had a beautiful home, two adorable cats, and I had said to them that my grandson, who is in the RAF, that's the Royal Air Force, and he's
Mm-hmm.
stationed in Oxfordshire, he's stationed about an hour from the sit that I was in London. And I said that when I'm down south, because my home is in Scotland, and I said, when I'm down south, and if he can, my grandson, Benjamin, will come and meet me and we'll go for lunch and then he'll go home. And I said, is it okay if he comes and meets me here, parks his car outside, we'll go for lunch, and then he'll go? And they said, absolutely. And then said, well, if he's allowed off base, you have 3 bedrooms. If he wants to stay the weekend, as you don't get to see him very much, then he can. And I went, well, that's so kind of you, because I would never, ever invite anybody into anybody else's home. And unless, it was sanctioned by them. So Benjamin was available, and he's recently got a girlfriend, and he said, Nanny, can I bring? And I said, I said, I will have to ask. I said, but if you can't, then I'll put you up in an Airbnb nearby, because I wanted to meet her. So I asked the owners, I said, blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, they can bring him. Their words were, we have a home and we want our home lived in, and we want our home enjoyed, and we trust you enough to know that you will not invite anybody in that isn't as trustworthy as you are. And that was this was the first time I sat for them, and I was their first sitter as well. So Benjamin and his girlfriend came, and they arrived on the Friday, and I had asked the pet parents, I know the area because I've been there for 13 years, but I asked the pet parents, I couldn't get into the restaurant that I wanted to take them to. And I asked them if they had a favorite that they could recommend. And they said yes. And they told me which one to go to. So I booked it. And the day before, I'd sent them a photograph of their 2 cats. And I said, they're enjoying life, etc., etc. And the reply came back was, did you get into the restaurant? Did you get the reservation? And I went, absolutely. Yes, we did. Because Friday, in that area of London, it's so busy, and any restaurant that's good will be booked out. So we go and have dinner at this restaurant, lovely dinner, and lovely restaurant. And at the end, I asked for our check, and the waiter came back and said, it's settled. And I went, pardon? Whoa. He said, it's settled, it's paid. I said, no, you've got it wrong. It can't be. And my grandson Benjamin said, no, we've only just come in again, and no, it's taken care of. And I went, no, you've got. And this banter went on for like 5 minutes or more. And then the manager, and they were lovely in this restaurant. They were just so friendly, and we had such a good time. Then the manager came in by, and he said, no, seriously, your check is taken care of. The penny dropped.
Wow.
I said, was it? And I gave their names, and he just looked at me and smiled. They had said that they would pick up the check for our dinner that night. And that was the most generous and kind and considerate. They had to go out of their way because they're in the States and this is in the UK. It's a time zone difference. They obviously are known in the restaurant, and they're very, they're regulars, but that doesn't matter. And the fact that they did that, I was so humbled, but I was cross in a way, because I said, you don't have to do that. You really, really don't have to do that. I never expected it. And they just said, and these were the words, you cannot imagine what it means to us to know that our 2 babies are so well taken care of. You cannot imagine what peace of mind that's given us. And that is worth more than money can buy.
It's really true, The peace of mind is huge.
Yeah,
and it is. And that's a lovely, lovely story. I mean, and so that's what I said about you're coming together over care and compassion, and you can't beat it.
No,
you can't.
Yeah,
it's priceless. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And so I would encourage anyone listening, especially as it's Women's Month, and we're talking about women. I would encourage anybody that is a pet lover, because that's the number one. That's the number one. If you are a pet lover and you're a traveler and you want to have unique and authentic experiences in any part of the United States or wherever you choose to go, look at Trusted House Sitters and but also make sure that if you do, that you choose the right sit for you, the right pet pet for your experience, don't know yourself so well that you won't overcommit, or that you won't take something that's not going to work for you, because it has to work for everybody, especially the pets.
It does. It does. And Nancy and I will do it. We just love the animals so much. And there's some sits that are a little bit more, there's some are medications and things like that, or, a little bit more than what would be a typical pet sit. And that is 100% fine with us, so long as we have that communication and know. So we work our lives around the animals. We really do, because they're living beings who don't have a voice.
No, that's right.
I will say this, I never had kids, but I don't ever need to. I think I've picked up more poop than I've ever needed to. I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and do whatever is needed to be done. And I'm kidding about that. And listen, if you're scared of poop, don't pet sit. But the reality is this: you're giving and caring, and the joy that comes from that means anything. If, as a woman, at times, life can beat you down, especially if you're feeling a little lonely, right? And an animal, and if people are annoying you, you can sit down and talk with an animal, even a fish. Just be nice and gentle and calm, which makes it a very interesting conversation, and tell them what's going on. And they will listen. They will look at you like you're half mad sometimes, like mad as in, I'm talking to Angela. She's, from overseas, and she says mad, not angry, crackers. But they will be there for you. And animals, once they know you're feeding them, and once they realize you've got the routine down, and they will mess with you at times too, like babysitting, right? But once they know that you're there for them, they will give back to you. Sometimes it takes longer, depending on the animal and the animal's history, just like people. But they will listen to you, and you can tell them all the stuff your relatives and friends are tired of hearing.
Yeah. They never question it,
and they don't tell. And they don't tell anybody else. Your secret is safe with them.
And you can repeat the same name over and over and over again, and you'd get, if you were doing that in human company, they start clinking the glass, or they'd start going, oh God, she's off again. But the animals don't. And there's another group of women that are it is becoming more popular. And that is women that are in relationships. They're either with husbands or partners or whatever that dynamic of theirs and that way they live. But they're actually deciding that there are times when they want some time for them and some time away. And let's face it, you can have the happiest of relationships, but we are all individuals. We are all people who need, I believe, I know so many people and so many couples and so many friends, and I can honestly say that not one of them has had a relationship meltdown because one walked away for a couple of weeks. They may have a relationship meltdown because they're together 24/7, but so many, and I've come across mothers that their children are now off at college, and they've gone, you know what? I'm going to take a trip for me. I'm going to go. And so while pet and house sitting is not a vacation, and we can't stress that enough, it isn't a vacation. If you want a vacation, book a cruise. Although, these days that's a bit dodgy as well, because you might get sick. But if you want a vacation, take it away somewhere. But because pet sitting is not, because it comes with responsibility. It comes with commitment. It comes with, all of the things that you may think you don't want, but when they're wrapped up in a home away from home with the most delightful 4 or 2-legged friend or whatever it is, then that can be a break and a vacation in itself. because you can then have time for you. Put your feet up on the sofa in the evening with a good book and a glass of wine or the television. And as I say, I've just been in Brighton for 2 weeks looking after Mango,
Oh, beautiful.
and she slept with me every night. There was no snoring, there was no grunting, there was no the things you have to put up with when you've got somebody else in the
Yes.
space. And she lay still all night long. And there she was. I didn't even know she was there. I mean, I didn't. The only way I
Well,
knew she was
listen, Angela, an animal snoring does not annoy us.
no,
Human
it doesn't.
snoring,
No, it doesn't.
human
No,
snoring, that's
no.
annoying.
You know
100%.
why? You know why that is? Because we feel that the humans have got control over it. We know the animals don't.
I know it, but and this is the thing too. It's a way of, like if you're going, say someone's having a wedding in your family and you go and, there's like the little parties and everything. I think also, some of us women, especially, as we progress in our lives, we want our time away. We don't want to be like every 5 seconds we have to do this, do this, do that, right?
That's
And
right.
you want to
Yeah.
kind of deflect and have some time out. Nancy and I are like that. This is slow travel, as you said. And, if you want to go for a walk in a new park, you can. We tend to be at the sit 100%, like 99% of the time. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there. And people are like, no, really, really, please go and enjoy this. So we'll go like do a dinner or something like that. But it's not more than 3 to 4 hours max, right? Because
No.
we're just always like, we got to go, we got to go. I think there's
Yeah.
only a few times. And I have pet parents are like, please, will you go enjoy yourselves? And then we're like, okay, they're going to think we're nuts. And that's because we care. I mean, if a pipe burst or an animal suddenly got sick and we weren't there, that's not that we'd feel terrible and we want to be there to fix it. Um, but really, what we tend to do is take our way of travel has changed 100% since of trusted house sitters. Now, well, and also because during COVID we did so many parks. I mean, we're sitting on so much work that now, and we don't want to quit our lifestyle. So it's like this interesting balance. But now, in between sits, like we don't even plan that much of what we're doing because it's like this freedom. Like we know all of our work has to be done. And this is just our way of travel. We just like, okay, we've got to go from A to B and it could be across the country. We'll get a hotel where and when we want. But I want people to understand trusted house sitters pays into tourism big time. We feel great as travel advocates and what we do in our magazines. Everything is about travel. No matter what publication you're looking at, what podcasts, travel is part of it. And we know we're physically helping people travel. And there's nothing better than that. Knowing that. And in fact, we even help people like, oh, you're going here. Here's an article. Here's a podcast. So we love that. But there's this freedom that happens in between for us as full-time digital nomads where we don't book anything. And we just go, we're going from A to B and let's go down whatever park road we want to because we don't have to be anywhere until here. And it's just this really free thing. And so we have our times and maybe we'll spend the night or two before our pet sit in the same city or town or community, and do what we want to do before the pet sit. Because when it's pet sit time for us, that means we're watching animals and we're working. So it's kind
Yeah.
of and the animals are used to pretty much people being there, especially after COVID. Most animals are
Oh,
used to
absolutely.
people being there and they have routines. I don't care if it's a bunny or a guinea pig, a fish or a cat. They know they have a routine. All of them do. They know
Yeah.
your routine and you try and slide into it as best you can, which teaches you something new. That itself, it's called pattern interrupt. We learned this from a friend, Bobby DePorter, who's an education expert. And she goes, you have to have pattern interrupt. You want patterns and routine, but pattern interrupt just for a few minutes, for a few seconds, for a week is a good thing for everybody,
Yeah.
even for your animals.
Absolutely.
So, Angela, thank you so much. Always a fun time having you on the show. We could talk animals and pets and pet sitting forever. But before you go, it's Women's History Month. Any women you'd like to give a shout out to?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. There are so many. I, you know what? There are famous women. There are women from history. Yeah, I actually want to give a shout out to my ex-mother-in-law. She
Oh,
is 97 years old.
wow.
She lives on her own. She manages her own home. She manages her own garden. She is as stalwart and as independent today as she was when she was in her 20s. She's not had an easy life. She is the kindest, most caring, but also when they made her, they broke the mold. She is of another era. And sometimes when I'm with her in her company, I realize that, before the internet, before so much, there was a very simple life. It may not be as easy, or is today easy? I don't know. Life never, it depends on your circumstances. But she is, I will tell you this just one thing about her, which will encapsulate who she is, what she is, and why I love her as much as I do. And bear in mind, I called her my ex-mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
She is,
Sure.
but she's my daughter's grandmother. Um, she was in my home for Sunday lunch one day and I was clearing the table away, and I was loading the dishwasher, and she came into the kitchen, and this is like 35 years ago. And she came into the kitchen and she said, can I watch you, dear? And I thought, okay, right. Yeah, I'm loading the dishwasher. Absolutely, you can. So I'm loading it up, and she looked at me, and she said, don't they break? I said, pardon? She said, don't they break when you put them in there? She thought it was like a washing machine, and it turned the tumble
Oh
dryer
my
round.
gosh.
And that was her. I mean, she lives a simple life. She is, as I say, she is kind, she is caring, and she is, I think, the way that more women should be. And so
Mm.
I'm giving a shout out to her.
I love that. And I love the washing machine story because as pet sitters, nowadays you go into homes like, you know, everything's digitized. You go into homes
I
and you have to
know,
ask
even the
Alexa to
light,
put the lights on or
music,
take them off.
everything else.
We used to think the TVs were the hardest thing. Now it's the coffee makers. You know, the dishwashers, I now actually think dishwashers and washing machines are the easiest sometimes. But the other set we did recently, I said, "Oh yeah, no problem. I'll take you to the airport and back. However, I'm gonna have to take everything. It's a over weekend sit. I'm gonna have to empty our car to do that, you know. And with us traveling full time, like that's kind of we're gonna have to do that. They're like, no, no, take our car. So we did, and their car is way ahead of our car. Our car is our like I don't this gal is going with us like I don't know. I'm never gonna. She's gonna be ancient, you know. When you've done so many miles in a car and you talk to her, she's like a pet, you know.
Yeah,
She's like,
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, and she's not that old, but it's part of the journey. And so I said, okay, I'll have to. They're like, no, no, take ours. It's brand new, and because I know we are going to have to get to this pace of. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about cars. It just makes me sad. I love her so much. Anyway, so it's like, well, you drive this, and so we drive to the airport, and I get in the car, and like the cars now don't have normal keys, and I'm
No,
like,
they don't.
what the hell is going on? And so I'm like, okay, fine. I get the car home. The car is fine. It's got all kinds of fancy stuff. And he's like, well, we could sync your phone into I'm like, don't let the phone be as it is. It's the only way I'm going to get home. And I get it in the garage. Everything's safe, and I'm breathing. Like they don't understand how much like I'm like, holy cow. Like this is so different, right? And then they're coming home and they said, don't worry about picking us up. Only if you, and I'm like, no, I can do it. I can do it. Angela, I back the car out, start to back the car out. The car doesn't recognize me and stops. The garage door is open and it parks halfway through the garage door and I can't get to them. They're like, well, you've got the keys. I'm like, I know, but it won't do it. And where there's no, like, what, this isn't a key. Like, what is this? And they got home fine and they were very nice about it, but kind of looked at us like, where are you from? It's just,
it's like driving a computer. I've had a couple of those, and it's like you get in there and it's gone, nothing that is intuitive that you actually are used to works. Nothing.
It's freaky. It's scary, actually.
And some of them. Do you know what I truly believe, and I may be showing my age here, but I truly believe that we have not made life easier for ourselves. I think we've made it far more difficult. This year, I've just been on in Brighton, where I looked after Mango. Everything in that apartment is touch digital. Everything, every single thing, lights, and there was a panel for music. There was a panel to get radio stations. I left there never having listened to the radio station that I always listen to. I couldn't find how to get it on this damn panel. And I got so frustrated.
And then the more you touch it, the alarm will go off or something.
So I finished up listening to it through the television and through my computer.
It's just, it's a change. And so, but this is the other thing. It's about growth. We're learning how to live in different places. I've fixed washing machines. I have done things. I mow lawns that I never thought I was going to be able to do. I have put myself into situations going, sure, I'll learn how to do it. Going, holy cow, what am I doing? And then this feeling, you know what? Speaking of women, the empowerment you feel of taking on tasks that you didn't know you knew how to do and learning. Okay, so I will say shout out to Google and YouTube things. And I don't do anything unless a pet parent gives me thumbs up. I go, this is what I saw. What do you think? Do you want me to try? Whatever. But honestly, it feels so empowering to learn new things. And I think, that's why we do podcasts. Deep down, Nancy and I are just geeks and we want to learn from everyone. And the reality is the same thing with pet sitting. You're learning. I could tell you about everyone's stoves. We go into a house. I go, well, this is the vacuum. I'm like, I know that vacuum cleaner really well. Then you'll get one. It's the coffee makers. No, I just want a pot. Like, that's it. But we carry our own French press. We carry half of our own stuff. Because you have to be able to do what you need to do, right? And we have fish allergies and stuff. So we have even our own frying pans and stuff, that we carry with us because we don't want any hassles. We don't want no drama allowed. But we do learn all these things about different ways of composting, different ways of gardening across the country. And we've learned, I think, if you want to learn about where to live in the country, and that's something we are asked about all the time, especially as women, women retiring, they're like, I want to find a place to retire. What do you think? Do you know how many people call us all the time? Well, where was the last place? What was that like? What's the pricing like? What are the neighborhoods like? Are they safe? I'm like, dang, we should start a real estate show, Nancy, I think. Because people are asking us all the time, and you learn sounds, you learn what, you just really learn, and you learn independence too. And I also think that's a way. And I know, young girls getting into pet sitting, sometimes people will look at you, oh, you're too young. And some people may look at, going, hey, you're too old. And maybe that's true, depending on the sit and the animals. It can all depend. But there's still a learning curve. Don't give up, because there's so many matches at some point, you're going to learn. You're going to learn. And you're going to learn responsibility.
There's something for everybody And I've actually solved the coffee problem too. I've solved the coffee machine problem. I only drink tea, so all I want is a kettle.
See, we carry a French press, and then Nancy's like, "We need to get a bigger one." I'm like, "No, we're not getting anything bigger for the car." We're not.
I only drink tea, and I implore everybody that's having somebody come to their home to pet sit for them that only drinks tea, please buy a kettle, because you can't make good tea without boiling the water first.
Oh yeah,
So,
and you don't want to do it in a pot that has had like fish stew.
Oh no, no.
Well, that's
anyway.
That's the thing. People, that's part of the communication. How many pet parents have said to us, "What can we do for you? What do you like to eat? We'll put something in the fridge for you when you get here." Cheryl here had pizza and brownies, homemade brownies for us when we came here. I mean, come on. That is the sweetest, coolest thing ever. We always leave her flowers because she likes flowers. You know, you start to learn from each other, and it is again about that relationship of, you don't need to go and buy someone a Ferrari. It is about caring. And that's what it is. Thank you again, Angela.
Ferrari would be good.
I don't mind a Ferrari, but God, do you know what it's going to be like now? You just sneeze and it starts. Like, could you imagine getting in a Ferrari now? Like, I wouldn't even know. Someone else will have to drive it. I don't know, man. I kind of feel like we need to go back to an old pickup truck at this point. I don't know. This progression, but it is a way to embrace it. That's kind of how I'm learning all these things, you know. It's cool. You will stay young if you keep learning.
You will, and if you keep challenging yourself. And on that note, and these are dear friends in Bainbridge that have 3 rescue dogs, and they are adorable, and the couple are adorable too. And he is 82 years old. And if we're talking about fast cars, he's just bought himself a McLaren. There's not many of them in the United States, and they are an absolute fortune. They go like absolute stink. And that is he just wanted a change. He was driving Porsches, so now he drives a McLaren. But you know what? If you want to do it, then do it. It's like travel and pet sitting. There is something there for everybody. And if you're a pet lover, I promise you there is nothing like it. Nothing.
Listen, we get to go play with pigs. Okay. I can't wait. I can't wait. Actually, this airs on the day that we're leaving the piggies. But I have to tell you, it has changed our lives. And as women travelers, it just feels nice to go to someone's home that is welcoming you again, over the care and compassion being the two things. Care and compassion, they are the same thing, I know, but compassion is like the amplifier of care, I think.
Yeah.
So when you have that, it is a very welcome. It's like being in a bed and breakfast. We always love bed and breakfast for the same reason as women travelers. You know, it's just this warm welcome. You do get to know the neighbors. You do. And some of them are a hoot. Some of them you go, damn, I'm going to write about them in a book someday. But, you know, but really do it. Exactly. Thank you so much, Angela. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks,
everyone. TrustedHousesitters.com. The link's in the show notes. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.